Welcome to memoQ Talks, where we talk to industry leaders about their experiences, lessons learned, and what works best across all areas of localization. Now here's your host.
Hey, Dion. How are you?
Hey, very good, mate. How you doing?
Pretty good. I'm over in Seattle, Washington. I'm assuming that you're still in Thailand?
At the moment, I'm in Bangkok, but a fair bit of travel coming up this month to Dubai and a few other places.
Awesome. I don't see you at a lot of local industry events, and maybe that's just because we go to different events, or is it because that you're located in Asia? It's a little more difficult for you to hit all the majors.
I used to do a lot of localization industry events when machine translation was new. I got a lot of speaking opportunities back then. These days, most of what we do is online. I do AI events globally that are where my technology is new again. So, it's about educating the market more than anything. Obviously, the relationship bit's there as well. But we've changed our business model these days to partnership models for a major part of our business. So a lot of our partners are attending events and doing things like that. And so we don't have to have as much physical presence.
That makes a lot of sense. And I definitely want to come back to you and talk to you a little bit about the state of machine translation, given all of the advances with AI and the LLMs going forward here.
Sure.
But what I really wanted to talk to you about today was, some of your recent posts on LinkedIn, you had very strong opinions and concerns about potential or real abuses by some of the AI leaders. There's actually, I remember 3 or 4 different posts. Maybe, we could just start with, what are your biggest concerns in terms of, these companies abusing their power?
Well, big AI and big tech have, had a monopoly since, the 70s, pretty much. And they've gone through different phases and so on. We're at a very different level now where the lock-in and abuse is interesting, but also the ability to break away from the lock-in and abuse is interesting. So if you look at the big picture, time and time again, we've seen Meta be fined in Europe, and I'm talking billions of dollars for breaches. The same with various other big AI vendors. I shouldn't just pick on Meta. There's a lot of them doing it. Microsoft, many others, Google, and etc. And at the end of the day, it's really hitting people down the line. It's not just enterprises that it's hitting, it's consumers and individuals. And one of the really good examples is the scraping of content that is just taking everybody's copyright unilaterally across the board. And it's actually devaluing their content. Okay, so that's if I've written a book, let's say, and let's say Llama or let's say OpenAI consumes my book, never gives me any reference, any credit, but uses all the messages that were in my book, suddenly nobody buying my book. The same if I'm generating content. The amount of content now on the internet that is getting what's called 0 clicks, where they've consumed all your information and they present it to the end customer, but you don't get anything for it. You lose your opportunity to monetize. All the advertising's gone. At the same time, it's chewing up massive amounts of bandwidth. So if you look at Wikipedia, I read some data the other day, their traffic has gone up by 40% in the last year, yet their user visitors has gone down.
So explain that. I'm not quite following you.
Sure. So what's happening is the crawlers are going through and they're mining the live Wikipedia data. Okay? So there's no human there. So the traffic is going up because it's being mined. And because the answers are now coming from Gen AI, they're not going to Wikipedia.
Got you. Oh, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I guess you could use that, like you said, for the examples of people who've written articles, published books, even works of art. I'm thinking about you used to have to go and engage with an individual graphic artist or an agency, and then you could go online with the gig economy and find people on Upwork or Crowdspring or Fiverr. But now you can just have AI do it. And how does AI learn how to do it? A lot of times it's looking at other published works of reference, right? So, yeah.
And every now and then they get caught out and they apologize, and, or they go too far. So I'll give you another recent example, and I posted on this a few weeks ago on LinkedIn. So GitHub is extremely popular, especially with the open source community. And when Microsoft acquired it 6 years ago, Nadella made a promise that GitHub would always remain independent. Okay. Now, 2 weeks ago, he broke that promise and he merged GitHub completely into Core AI. So it's a standard process that we've seen with Microsoft and many others, where they pull it all in, they milk it for all it's worth, then they get you to lock it in, because very shortly I perceive GitHub will start charging people a lot more for using its features and functionality. At the same time, these tools are starting to be used politically. So, Microsoft has blocked certain geographical locations from using GitHub just because they don't align with American politics.
Can you give an example?
Well, let's just say Cuba, Iran, Russia.
Wow. So and I guess there are some. I would think that there is some kind of legislation that says, "Hey, you're prohibited from sharing or providing certain kinds of services to these countries."
Well, in some cases, yes, but not every case. Like Hong Kong, for example, OpenAI just decided that they weren't sure what was going on there, so they decided to block services to ChatGPT in Hong Kong. There was no government mandate or anything. They just decided.
Maybe just a little too close to China. I don't know.
Could be. But these are the things where these big mega vendors are becoming political.
It's an amazing amount of power. So if we go back to what you were talking about, how they're scraping data to use to train their platforms, what is there any company that's doing it the right way? Are there any models out there that say, hey, you know what, we will pay you for your training data?
Well, there's a number of different perspectives on this. There's a Swedish initiative and several other initiatives where they've actually shown that you don't need to scrape everybody's data to get similar results. And so they've used only open content, like Wikipedia, various other sources that are completely open. Okay. And they've been able to train models that, with a fraction of the data, approaching the qualities that we need. Now, they're not up to the GPT-4 or 5 levels yet, but that's not expected yet. They're proving a point that it is possible to do it without stealing IP. So, there's a lot of open content left out there all around the world that they could start using and populating. So what it really comes down to is the big guys just found it easier to steal than to do it the right way.
Yeah. Are any of them being held accountable at all at this point?
Sorry, could you repeat that? You were cutting out.
I said, have any of have any of those companies been held accountable, or has anybody taken legal action against them? Yeah.
There's no accountability, but there's plenty of legal action going on. I think Anthropic just a few days ago settled one major lawsuit in the space. Okay. But I don't have all the details. I'm still catching up on that one. But I saw that go by me and it sits in my notes to review. But, I'll give you an example. Meta literally stole, and I'll use that word directly, 7 million books. They downloaded a known pirate collection of books, right? Then when they got caught, okay, and this was with top management sign-off, including, Mark Zuckerberg literally saying, go for it.
Wow.
Right? So when they got caught and they were in the courts, they said, there's no real value here. It didn't really help us.
That's right? Not the point. That's not the point.
That's not the point. Exactly. And not only that, what happened is it devalued the publishers that put all the money behind these books, the authors putting the effort in. It might not have been much value to Meta, but it was definitely valuable to the people who published.
Absolutely. Speaking of Meta, I think I mentioned to you about the recent kind of release of internal notes where Meta has explicitly allowed their platform to have romantic conversations with children, their AI platform. Okay.
Right.
So
it's
imagine
appalling,
this.
isn't it?
Yeah. So imagine a 13-year-old, and some of the things were like, "Hey, I'll take you by your arm and guide you to bed," and I mean, this is kind of crazy, right? And,
Right.
and if you think about the potential abuses of that, one, it's just creepy, but
Yeah.
two, they were able to create psychological profiles for any person, these children who interact with this platform. We already know that, there have
Of course they
been
are.
massive mental and social, problems caused by social media and devices. But now we're going to make it even more powerful because it's going to interact with you, create a psychological profile on each user, but
Yep.
then it'll have all the behavioral data for all these people it interacts with as well. And
It goes even further.
What could go wrong, man?
I mean, it goes even further. I mean, they were busted a little while ago. I mean, what you've said, first of all, is appalling, right?
Yeah.
Allowing those kinds of things to go on. But it goes further. So there was an example recently where they were busted targeting young teen girls that deleted selfies of themselves. That was an indicator they picked up on as being uncomfortable or socially awkward. And so they would market products like makeup and other things to them directly as a result.
Wow. That's
right. So, it's all across the board, but there's been Cambridge Analytica. I mean, there's hundreds of things. I've been writing a lot about these topics, and I know you're going to bring some of it up later, so I'll hold off. But, when you look at the people that are also defending it, that's where I get interested as well. Right?
For example?
Well, there's one person I've looked up to for decades, and that's Dion Wiggins. Okay. He's one of the Meta's top scientists. Mm-hmm. He's an absolute legend in the industry, but he's selling his soul and selling his legacy by turning around and defending Meta, who he works for, and saying, they're only trying to do the right thing. They're not trying to do the right thing. And, I challenged him on that, and in the end, he just blocked me. He'd rather just,
somebody blocked Dion Wiggins, man.
I get blocked all the time. Don't worry about that. I wear it as a badge of honor if people like that block me for these reasons.
You actually accused me of blocking you once, but I didn't block you. So I was like, no, I'm not blocking you. I'm just ignoring you, man.
Yeah, thank you.
on that particular topic. But no.
Yeah, but that sort of stuff where somebody I once respected is literally sold out.
Yeah.
And I just find that tragic because the guy's legacy is incredible, but it's being trashed because he's sort of selling his soul for all the wrong reasons. And there's a bunch of people in the industry that are doing that have been hired by, big money to stand up as faces. And I mean, another part of what I get frustrated with, there's two terms, open washing and sovereign washing.
Oh, explain those, please.
Okay, so open washing is Meta again. Okay, and everyone, has been using Llama for a long time. And Llama's great. I like Llama. But they've taken it and said it's open source. And it passes only 1 out of 10 criteria from the Open Source Institute's criteria for open source. Okay, it's got so many restrictions. It's got licensing issues. It can't be used in Europe in some models, right? Things like that. There's a whole bunch of restrictions. Whereas you compare something like DeepSeek that passes 9 out of 10. And Jan LeCun says to me, oh, yes, but it's so hard to match all that criteria. Well, if DeepSeek can do it, why can't Meta?
Yeah. Yeah. No, so I didn't hear the person you were talking about before, but Jan LeCun, I've actually heard him talk a few times. Right. One of the interviews was on Lex Friedman's podcast, and I mean, it was fascinating because he has a way of explaining very technical potentialities in a way that I can understand. So it's kind of cool.
Right, and then the other term was sovereign washing.
Yeah.
So I'm big into digital sovereignty, and with digital sovereignty, there's a lot of vendors now claiming to be sovereign. But, you're getting vendors like, let's take NVIDIA. They're claiming their GPUs are sovereign. Okay. It's about the least sovereign thing on the planet. is a GPU card that comes from an American vendor that's got a card riddled with kill switches, where they can turn things off and degrade performance and do things at their whim.
Yeah.
Right? And, in the current geopolitical environment, that happens way too often.
And I don't want to really go down that path, but, Snowden, when he came out with all the revelations of all the backdoors that the U.S. government had worked with big tech to put in their devices and on their platforms, that should, if that wasn't a wake-up call, the American government was spying on hundreds of millions of Americans and our closest allies. If that wasn't, big tech potentially.
But what worries
using power.
me more is, spying is one thing, but a lot of that can be checked, and you can check on various things and block traffic or detect traffic. But what if a government or even just a vendor could turn you off?
Yeah.
Okay. So Microsoft, for example, in China just a few months ago, gave a university 24 hours to get its entire everything off its systems. They were going to shut it down. And they did.
Wow.
A whole university. Okay.
So
it's happened in Hungary. It's happened in Europe.
You could scrub an individual or an organization and they would just kind of no longer exist, right?
Yeah, well, okay, let's make it personal for a moment. I'll use a personal example. It's a little bit dated, but it'll still give you a very good example. A number of years ago, I was using Blogger to blog. And about 20 people replied. Yeah. It's a long time ago, yeah. About 20 people replied. And I copy and pasted those 20 replies into Microsoft Word, and I wrote up my replies. Now, I didn't want to use the simple text editor Blogger had, because you've got no spell checking, grammar checking, or anything like that. I wanted to do it professionally. Right, so I wrote up all my 20 replies. Then I went and copy and pasted in one after another, submit. Blogger decided I was a bad actor because I was posting too fast. Okay. Now, I was using my Gmail. That was my authentication. It locked me out of my email, my YouTube, my Google search. Anything Google was gone. 100%. My digital identity was wiped out. And it took me 3 weeks to get it back, because you can't talk to a human.
Yeah. I have a couple of YouTube videos that have like 70,000 views, and I've been trying to get back into those accounts. It's just innocuous things about biking, right? But I'm proud, man. I got 70,000 views, man. Which in the great scheme of things, but for me, that's like wow. But I can't get back into the accounts, and I do go through all the protocol. I've done it all of the times, and it's just like nope. And you, like you said, you can't talk to somebody, so it's not my property anymore.
You've got an electronic umpire or adjudicator that decided that you are a bad player falsely.
Yeah. Well, so we're talking about the abuses of big tech and the largest AI providers, but one of the reasons that these abuses are sometimes kind of swept under the rug or somewhat rationalized or justified is that we've got to win the AI war. And I'd like to get your thoughts in terms of, do you really think that there is going to be a winner in the AI war, or will it be, it's like saying who won the internet, it's like we all benefited. There were abuses. Yeah. So
it's funny you should say that. There's already a winner.
Okay, go ahead. Talk about it.
Okay. Yeah. So let's look at it this way. Silicon Valley and US have had a monopoly on IT for a very long time. There's only a few big guys outside that have really done well. China has now built a parallel stack and ecosystem that has replicated pretty much everything. But they're not global. They're focused on China and a few other places. Now, that dominance, though, has led to a lot of abuse and a lot of distrust. And what happens down the line is where it gets blurred. People are starting to push back. They're tired of these abuses again and again. And so the term digital sovereignty is coming up a lot these days, where both nations, enterprises, and even individuals are just saying, enough. You've stolen my data. You've got these control over me, these kinds of things. And they're pushing back. And, I've just written a piece this evening It's called America's Betrayal Paradox. And every time that one of these big AI companies does a betrayal, and when I say betrayal, I'm saying going too far, stealing your data, stealing IP, being unethical, like with the, the children and things like that. It's just another betrayal that goes in the feather. At some point, it goes too far. Okay. Now, people start pushing back after a certain point, and we're past that point now. Okay. So you're getting a lot more acceleration from government and people pushing back.
But back to my question, will there be an AI winner, or will it just be like the internet?
So I'll come to the answer of that in a moment.
Okay.
So will there be a winner? Absolutely, and there already is, and it's quite clear. Okay, so aided by China, which is interesting, China really broke the US narrative in January with DeepSeek. Okay, so the US narrative was only big AI can do these things, right? And just recently, it's been only big AI in the GPU space. NVIDIA can do these things. Both those things have been shattered now. Okay. DeepSeek in a day shattered that narrative. Okay. But what they did was they open sourced it. They open sourced everything. And now the whole world is latching onto those efficiencies. So what's happening now is Silicon Valley, for the first time, actually has real competition that is not a small country. It's not a company. It's the globe. It's everybody. Because they've got access to all the AI tools. They've got access to all the technology. And so China's been able to make comparable, France has been able to make comparable models. Various other countries. I mean, Kazakhstan's made their own national model.
So what you're saying is because DeepSeek is open source, the pro-digital sovereignty or just pro-sovereignty people around the world would tend to want to use an open source platform with a community of like-minded countries, people.
Right. So it's not just DeepSeek. It's the open source software overall. Okay. Yeah. There's so many pieces that are available now. So, a small to mid-sized company or even okay can do these things that they couldn't just a few years ago. And that's Silicon Valley's worst nightmare. Okay, because so now they actually have real competitors.
So let me push back a little bit. Okay, I know this is short-term thinking, but NVIDIA just announced their earnings, and they're continuing to rocket. Okay,
absolutely.
DeepSeek caused earlier this year, I think it was March when they came out with their test results. That initially, NVIDIA, everything dropped for like a week, and then everything's been on a tear ever since.
Sure.
And at the same time, you have countries like Saudi Arabia that during the Biden administration, the U.S. was not going to sell them AI-related technologies. The Trump administration went over there and did a deal because they didn't want to buy Chinese technology because they're suspicious of that. Now, let me come back to the suspicion part in a second, okay? And so it's like the devil you know versus the devil you don't. I don't know, because obviously the U.S. companies have abuses as well. But they made a deal with the Saudis that for every dollar they spend, every $1 billion that they buy from U.S. technology, they have to invest $2 billion in the U.S. Infrastructure, which is like an amazing deal, which means that the Saudis, for whatever reasons, maybe that's not a good case study to generalize across the whole population of the planet, but they felt more comfortable buying U.S. technology than Chinese technology, to the tune of every dollar that they're going to buy from us, they're going to invest another $2 in the U.S. infrastructure.
That's all wonderful horse trading, but let's look at a bigger picture. If you look at just the GPUs, America scored a fantastic own goal in China. So 2 years ago, they had 90% market share of GPU. As of now, they have 30%, and it'll probably be down to about 5% by the end of the year in China. That's a $50 billion market. It's the second biggest market for GPU in the world. They've lost it 100% because of US policy. Now, let's take that to the next step. People are saying
let me pause you 1 second there. Are you saying that NVIDIA GPUs are not ending up in China?
They're now phasing them out, and I'll tell you a bit more about that.
Because there is an argument that that you have buying organizations in Singapore and Hong Kong that are buying and then re-exporting.
That's not really the case. That's been debunked already.
Okay.
So let me tell you what's happening in China, though.
Right.
Huawei, their latest GPU, the Ascend 910D, it's just being shipped now. Okay. It matches and in about 70% of areas exceeds the top NVIDIA Blackwell GPU. It's beating performance and it's half the price. Now they have to ramp up. They've got their own challenges of ramping up, volumes and so on. They're not there yet, right? But they're beating them now on performance at the top end. They no longer need the top end American GPUs. And companies like iFlyTech, DeepSeek, and several others are now 100% running on Chinese GPU. No American GPU in sight.
Do you see a day where countries in the EU would buy Chinese GPUs and implement?
Possibly, but they're not starting there. They're already shipping them to 40 countries, ironically, including Saudi Arabia. Okay, because they're cheaper. Okay, they're shipping them to all the countries that America doesn't want to ship to. Okay, now, there's a lot of work to go and there's a lot of challenges. There's other issues. Okay, but for the first time, there is a real competitor for NVIDIA. Just last week, China announced a real competitor for Intel, their first 100% fully homegrown x86. Right, and they're going after Intel and AMD. Now, I'm not saying that people should buy any of these. I'm just saying we now have choices.
Yeah, but when I asked the question, will there be a definitive winner? You said yes. And
yes, it's the world. It's not America. It's not China.
It's not a nation state. It's not a particular company. It's a global ecosystem. Got you.
Yeah,
I like that.
And open source and the other pieces.
I would love to believe in that model. And hopefully I don't get my citizenship revoked because I didn't root for USA on this one, but I think it would be healthier for the planet if power were dispersed.
I know I'm an outspoken voice on this, but when I was at Gartner, I was the lead China analyst, and I spent a lot of time there doing policy work as well as other countries, and I've been following it closely. And based on the things I'm writing about at the moment, I'm actually writing a book on the topic right now. Called The Digital Sovereignty Imperative. That's digging deep into this, and everything is being fact-checked and lined up.
Awesome.
And, all the bits tying together are terrifying and exciting at the same time.
In your book, I think you said it's a three book.
It's a three-part book, yeah.
Three-part book, and a total of like 1,100 pages or 800 pages, something like that?
No, not that many. It's probably going to be about 600, and I'm looking at shipping it in 3 volumes.
Awesome. Do you have anything in there? Because for digital sovereignty, blockchain and crypto is a huge kind of component of that. Are you addressing those issues?
Well, the book itself, as I said, is in 3 parts. The first is exposure and risk.
Okay.
And it analyzes the first part is all about interesting challenges, it may come across as a little negative to America because America is a dominant player. These same criticisms will be applied to any dominant player, right? But, because they have the dominance and they're being a bit of a bully and being unethical, like you just said earlier, and things like that.
I didn't say America was unethical. I said the companies were.
I said the players.
Okay,
the players.
Okay.
Right. Then you've got the second section is about deep analysis, and that's got financial modeling. I'm working with some people that are doing economic models at a country level and showing the impact of these changes. And then the third section is all about how do you break the mold and become sovereign as a nation, as an enterprise, and as an individual. It's a hot topic. It's a big topic, and it's changing daily.
I'm looking forward to it. When's it going to be?
Hopefully, mid to late Q1.
Oh, okay, Q1.
Yeah, I've already got 30 people reviewing it. I'm only up to chapter 5. I've got a fair bit to go yet, but the feedback's been fantastic. But what's interesting is I'm using AI to help me write it in quite a unique way.
Explain.
So Well, we've got our tools in our platform Language Studio that design workflows and run workflows on schedules and things like that. So I've got a Google Doc for every chapter. Okay. Now I've outlined every chapter. There's 39 chapters. Okay. So I've got a detailed outline of what this chapter is about, even though I haven't written it yet. Every day at 8 a.m. in the morning, it does a deep search on the internet and it pulls back anything relevant to that chapter and just appends it into the Google Doc. So it's doing my research for me even before I've started writing. Mm-hmm. It's gathering live current data. On top of that, any chapters I've already written, it's putting it at the end of the chapter in my files, and then it's cross-referencing it to say whether I need to update my chapter. You know, things have changed. Right.
Well, I mean, because you said Q1 next year, a lot of stuff can change between now and then. And I'm curious,
absolutely,
the pace of change is only going to accelerate. So will your book become kind of like a living document where you will, you know, do updates on the revisions kind of on the fly, or will you do a quarterly?
Well, it will be until it ships. And then once it's published, I have a companion website that I'm actually putting a lot of the models and things, and I'll be tracking the news. It's got a digital sovereignty index by country, and it'll be live changing every day based on the feedback from the news. And that's using our Language Studio tools to analyze and process and align it in.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm looking forward to it. You didn't answer my question, though. I guess it would be in the third book is where you start talking about how cryptocurrencies, blockchain individuals can take advantage of that to protect their digital sovereignty.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see blockchain too much and cryptocurrency as part of the bigger digital sovereignty picture. It's certainly part of the payments picture, right? But in terms of technologically, the digital sovereignty, that's where I'm focused, and about using, not being forced into something, having the right to exit a technology seamlessly when you want. Controlling your data, controlling your infrastructure, and things like the US Cloud Act, right? Being aware of these things, like if you're running on AWS, for example, you've got your data there. Let's say in the UK, right? The US Cloud Act can say, "Give me that data, anything on this company," and you're not allowed to, as a data center operator, you're not allowed to inform that company that your data has been taken. That's pretty scary.
Yeah, right? I totally agree. I disagree that that crypto won't play a significant part in digital sovereignty. I think there's probably, aside from your reputation, there's nothing more important than your finances and the ability when you have governments that will go in and freeze bank accounts because you donated to a particular cause that they took issue with.
Well, maybe I misspoke a bit there. I mean, the focus of my book is not on the payment systems.
Oh, got you. Okay, fair enough.
It's on the technological elements around the whole element of sovereignty for any kind of business, but it's not focused on payment systems. It does get a mention, but it's not a major focus.
Awesome, cool. Let's move on. You've been involved with machine translation and localization for as long as I've known you, and I mean, I'm guessing 2000. I think first time we met was like 2008 or something like that.
Right. So in 2006 I started. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't want to talk about the specifics of your company's business model because a lot of companies out there, memoQ included, has its own MT model and technology. But I would like to talk about what do you see as the role of MT providers going forward, given all the advancements with LLMs and AI?
Well, at this point, machine translation is a commodity. Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyone can download models and toys and tools. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that's become apparent for a long time. But translation and machine translation are two very different things. Okay. So when you start doing something, let's just say translating a newspaper article, that's relatively straightforward. But if you were to translate a research paper on neurosurgery, most translators, even humans, are going to get lost.
Yeah.
Okay. So What we're able to do now with advanced models and advanced tools is take this to a next level. So I'll give you an example from our tools, but I know other people are doing it too. Let's say it's a movie. Okay, we can do character analysis first of all. Okay, so who are the characters? Especially if it's a series or something, it can work out from existing stuff. Or there's been a book about it and you're making a movie. We can make those characters speak in a particular way, like a New York gangster. Okay, we can do speech recognition, and we can pick all of that up, and then we can pick intonation up from the speech, anger, various other things, and we can reflect that correctly in the translation. Okay. Now, not only that, languages, let's say going Chinese into English. So there's no subject, no gender, no tense. The good tools now are able to see distances around and understand the subject, the gender, the tense, and various other things that the traditional neural machine translation could.
That's pretty cool. Okay. So they can infer which ta is ta. Of course, if it's characters.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But they can also infer comedy, history, anger, treachery, all sorts of things. But they can also transform. And this is where we're doing a lot of work right now. So we have a thing called TAPE, which is Translation Automated Post-Editing. And you enter a profile of what you're doing. You describe it, you tell it what you want, you give it information. And when it runs, it transforms around it. So you can say, right, I'm translating this for the purpose of a synopsis, right? And let's say it's Spanish going into English, and it said, Mary came home and, she stormed out from Josh, right? The next sentence is, next morning, Josh had to take the kids to school. Okay, now that's pretty flat and boring, right? But if we have, Mary came home, she got into an argument with Josh and stormed out frustrated. Next morning, Josh had to take the kids to school alone because Mary had stormed out. Yeah. Right? So you're changing the content.
So basically, though, I mean, that's a lot of things that the LLMs can do right now. So you're adopting some of those capabilities to.
It's not just LLM. Though.
Yeah, what's that?
It's not just LLM. So there's a lot of other processes going on. So it's looking at it and it's saying, okay, what's the scenario it's in? It's getting background information, right? It's learned from other analysis that Mary's prone to having temper tantrums, right? And things like this. And if it turns out Mary's cheating, and they've got this information, and it's got this insight that, a normal translator even perhaps wouldn't have, right? And it's able to apply this into it in very subtle ways. And, you do have to put the work in to make it happen, but the results are incredible. Then it can grammar check, it can do other scans. So one of the processes we do before we translate is we scan for things that are difficult to translate, and we pre-translate them. We focus on those specific things, and we build a glossary dynamically.
Got you.
Okay. So I'll give you a really good example, though, from idioms, which is the best one. If you're translating, and I saw a German idiom recently, and I just translated it naturally, and it translated into English something like, she delivered it to my feet in a box with a bow on it. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Right? Once I applied our tools, it came through as it was delivered on a silver platter.
Yeah, I was thinking that, but I couldn't come up with the phrase. But I kind of got the meaning.
Yeah.
So I'm not as good as your tools. Okay. Awesome, Ed. Well, one thing that impresses me about you is that one, you have deep subject matter expertise in several different areas, and you have the ability to research and write prolifically on those topics. And you shared part of how you do that with your process for writing your book. But what advice would you give to the listeners and viewers of memoQ Talks if they want to stay updated on, what are some of the major concerns with AI in terms of potential abuses, and then also what are some of the more optimistic kind of, like you mentioned the open source movement and things like that. where do people go to get this information in a kind of a structured, regular format, aside from reading your book?
I mean, that's part of the problem right now. There's so much noise. There's so much people who, I call them AI idiots. I even wrote an article on LinkedIn a while back called We're Living in the Era of AI Idiots. People that last week were blockchain experts, and the week before were Bitcoin experts, and the week before that, there was something else, right? And they move along the line. They're instant experts, just add water. And there's so much noise that it's really hard to get above that and see what's real. So, I look at it, it's a bit of a cliche now, but, if you're not using AI, somebody's going to replace you that is, or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you'll hear a lot of people screaming, oh, this was written by AI, right? And yeah, I mean, I'm writing excessively with AI, but I'm using it as a cognitive partner. I'm not using it to write my content. Right now, let me give you an example. I'm asking it about, like, I'm targeting a publisher, for example, for my book. Okay, so I'm making sure it's in the right style for that publisher. It's still my content, right? But it's telling me this is wrong. This will be frowned on. Here's a risk. You need to address it. Here's a suggestion. Okay, so it's helping me do those tasks. It's looking for repetition and various other things. But I use a couple of techniques that I call knowledge buckets and voice buckets. Okay. A knowledge bucket, I just dump information that I see on a topic into a big document. I don't even read it. But I can ask questions of that at any time, that whole big body of documents. That could be 500 pages. So when I'm researching, I can say, check my content against this bucket of information. Is there anything that complements? Is there anything that detracts or challenges? So I get the facts. Up to me to still write it properly, and I use a lot of the vocabulary that the models may give me. But then I use what's called a voice bucket. And this is cool. So I can say, here's my content, and I can jot it down very messy. And a voice bucket has 40 articles that I've written that I like in a particular style. And I can say, now reformat this as me. And it will restructure the writing, clean it up, and take a lot of the grunt work away. It's still my work. It's still my messages. I've written all the framework. And then it's just filling in the gaps and making the grammar better than I could ever write it.
Hey, man, that's not too bad for a guy with silver hair. Or
I'm getting a bit more silver hair these days, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're giving these young guys a run for their money, man. So, because it's funny because, in a lot of technology, people, I'm running a startup, a B2B SaaS platform, and I meet all the other founders and many times they're, 20, 30 years younger. But it's cool that, you still got moves, man. That's awesome.
Well, I'll give you one last thought on that though, for writing.
Yeah.
These tools amplify you. If you're rubbish, they'll amplify how rubbish you are. Okay? If you're good, they'll amplify how good you are.
I say the same thing with money. Money is a great amplifier.
But it's the old thing, garbage in, garbage out. If you feed it garbage, and if you give it rubbish prompts like, write about this for me. I mean, my typical prompts are 2 pages.
Yeah. So do you have AI to write those 2-page prompts, or do you actually compose the prompt?
I've structured a set that I use and reuse.
Okay.
Right? But when I'm doing a particular piece of work, I'll say, this is the style I want, like style that's targeting this publisher or this audience. And I do, 10 minutes work building a prompt that I've got pieces that I can copy and paste in. And then I just use that prompt once at the beginning. And then from the rest of that session, it's writing the way I want. And it's checking the things I want to check. And, it's using it intelligently, not just being a lazy writer and saying, hey, here's a thought, write about this for me. Yeah. It doesn't work.
Awesome, man. Well, Dion, as always, enjoyed this conversation. Learned a lot.
Likewise.
And, probably have more unanswered questions now because you've you've planted the seeds there for further exploration. But hey, man, look forward to seeing you hopefully one day soon in person. It's been a while.
It has been.
Thanks for being on memoQ Talks.
My pleasure. Catch you soon. Bye for now.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining memoQ Talks, where we talked with industry leaders about their experiences and lessons learned to gain new insights about what works best across all areas of localization. Join us next time on memoQ Talks.